You're listening to Honey, We Made a Disney Podcast. Two friends, since a value meal was actually a value, now guides on your nostalgic tour of that. I'm going to start that one over. I wasn't feeling it. You're listening to Honey, We Made a Disney Podcast. Two friends, since a value meal was actually a value, now guides on your nostalgic tour of Disney history, one magical film at a time. I'm JB Waggoner.
And I'm Eddie Ferguson, and on today's episode, we start planning our return trip to Disney's California Adventure as we review Disney's Wonderful World of Color.
So fasten that safety restraint and pull up on the yellow strap. It's time to open the vault.
Cue that Disneyest sound effect. So JB, was this the moment that you felt like I had lost my mind completely in creating this list? Was this?
No, to be honest, I was fully expecting this to be a complete review of Disney California Adventure, their color and light show. It was like, oh, this is an older show that has been going on for a long time, and they just moved it to one park, and now we're just gonna watch a handheld recording on VHS from 1960 something. Even before, I guess that's before VHS. I didn't realize that this was the show, like the show that became so popular. I had no idea. Just the world of color. That's what I'm used to now is DCA's.
The nighttime show. Yeah, to give a little context to all of our listeners, this is kind of our second entry into Disney's weekly TV programming. It started off as the Disneyland story, and we reviewed a couple of episodes from that, then kind of morphed into like Walt Disney Presents. And these were very popular, right? Like these were huge. This is literally the money Disney used to build Disneyland was based off of all of this and creates, so much buzz and hype about it. Around this time, Disney is having huge fights and debates with ABC, who they did not own at that time. And pretty much he kind of says, all right, we're going to go look somewhere else, and turns to NBC. And at the same time that he turns to NBC is one of the only networks that is testing out this brand new technology called color TV, right?
Ooh.
So we get a channel switch and kind of a format switch. So we get a name switch along with it, and it becomes Disney's Wonderful World of Color.
And that isn't and I'm assuming that's why you're wanting us to review it here. This is a big momentous moment where they literally like turn it to color in the middle of in one of the presentations, one of the episodes.
I know I am prone to hyperbole, but this is the program that switches the U.S. public to color TVs, right? And this is very advantageous. This is very American corporate synergy happening here.
Yep.
Who owns NBC at this time? Well, it just so happens to be RCA is who owns NBC at the time.
Now, why would that be important, Eddie?
RCA happens to make this little thing called a color TV, right?
Wow.
So this is so opportunistic for them, and they are just thrilled because everybody wants to see Disney. He has become the household name of, Sunday evening TV. This is what you do as a family. Like you get together and you watch the Disneyland show or Walt Disney Presents or whatever it is. Oh, now he's got this new thing called color TV, and they take this to full degree, right? They create a new character to help educate the public on this newfangled technology that is color TV. And this new character is Professor Ludwig van Drake.
Seriously, that's his origin, was
That
to
is his origin.
explain color TV.
It is his.
Wow.
And they bring in legendary Disney voice legend Paul Frees, who we know as the ghost host.
Ah.
And he's the one who voices Ludwig van Drake to be able to help explain things. And this becomes kind of Disney's shtick, even up into back in March with the board fight. Anytime they need somebody to explain something that might seem a little complicated, they bust out Ludwig van Drake. And it comes from Disney's Wonderful World of Color.
That's so interesting. Because that was used in a lot of the advertisements recently for the fight against Nelson Peltz. This is how you submit your thing, and they used Ludwig for that. Oh, that's fascinating.
And Disney becomes obsessed with this whole idea of color television, like he has been in with everything. He's always stayed kind of on the cutting edge, and so he was certain we have to get this moved over to NBC, the Wonderful World of Disney program. And the quote is, he just said, "Fellas, I want this deal. If it's necessary, I'll stand on my head in a Macy's window."
Macy's. Oh, okay.
I don't understand the connection there, but
he said Kmart. It might not be taken very well, but Macy's. Now we're talking.
No, I mean, it just shows. This has been Walt all throughout his career. Like, he just has these gut instincts about stuff. They're usually correct. And he pushes it through when so many other people are like, "Oh, I'm not sure it's this or that." He's just certain and he pushes it through. And color TV is another one of those, which now we don't even begin to understand it. Like, I've talked with my parents, with my grandparents, talked about this was a huge moment, when everybody can kind of remember when they first got either the first TV set or especially their first color TV set. And one of the things that was so unique here is people would buy this new expensive color TV set, but there aren't many shows being produced yet.
Yeah.
So you get it. I guess we could put it to 4K came out and it was like, oh, you got to get a 4K. There's not much, content was being pushed out at 4K.
3D TVs.
3D TV. Yeah, exactly. All of these different things. But Disney had a show, and it was, well, if we want to see Disney and what he's up to, we've definitely got to do this.
Yeah, most of our parents would all say that they remember that time when there was the transition to color TVs. That was such a momentous thing, almost probably on par with even just the invention of television, like that being so crazy. And now we're actually getting color from this thing as well, and just what it brought to that moment. I know my mom, I asked her about it, and she definitely liked watching the Disney Presents or whichever was on at the time, but she remembers that Wizard of Oz, that was a big deal, watching Wizard of Oz when it came out on those Sunday nights, and she never got to finish it, I believe, because they had Sunday night church, and so they would start it and then they could never finish it because then they had to go to church. But that's also a perfect one too, because in it you get the transition from black and white sepia tone to color.
It's interesting you bring up The Wizard of Oz with your mom, because that's the exact same one that my mom brought up.
Mm-hmm.
And she tells the story of the local TV station there in St. Louis. They would always play The Wizard of Oz for some reason around the end of March. Somehow it connected to March, which is around my mom's birthday. And so it kind of became this tradition in their family to watch The Wizard of Oz around my mom's birthday, or as close to my mom's birthday as possible, to which we've tried our best to keep that tradition going. Even she was here for her last birthday, and
Happy birthday, Nancy.
Our kids, well, that was back in March.
They don't know when we're recording this.
I'm not the only person to share a birthday with a family member of yours. Mm-hmm. My mom shares a birthday with your grandma. And your grandma would always bake a cake for my mom on her birthday.
Oh, that sounds
I was like, that's just like the nicest person ever.
Happy birthday, Grandma. On
your own birthday, you're baking a birthday cake. And she goes, well, you've got kids and everything. Who's going to be making a cake for you? So I'm going to make a cake for you. Anywho. So that became, a tradition and all of that. But Disney did, there's a lot of episodes on this. So we could have watched hours and hours of content. We selected 2.
You selected.
I selected 2. Thank you.
Let's be honest here.
Well, did I hint a little tone there? There's one that all of you can go watch now on Disney Plus. What did they label it on Disney Plus? It sounds Christmassy, but it's not. It's like around the seasons.
Around the seasons. If you just type in "Wonderful World of Color," it'll pop up there for you. So but it's Disneyland Around the Seasons, Walt Disney's Wonderful World of Color, 1961 to 1969.
There you go.
But there's one episode.
There's one episode. I wish they would put out more. And then we watched one of the earliest that was released on YouTube. That is Disneyland After Dark. Which I guess we'll start there because that one's
interesting.
Yeah. I think the Around the Seasons one makes a little bit more sense. There's a lot more to kind of bounce off of. The After the Dark one, I just find it interesting because it is nothing else than an hour plus commercial for Disneyland. It is just like, hey, look at all these young people having a fun time at Disneyland. Don't you wish you were cool like them?
Which is great marketing. That's exactly what this show is.
It's pure marketing.
Walt Disney Presents or Walt Disney's Wonderful World of Color is just, it's like Buc-ee's. It's a great place to learn to get Buc-ee's stuff. This show is a great place to get Disney swag and the taste for the parks, basically.
And at the time, it was the only place you could get a taste for the parks, right? Like there's no vloggers on YouTube. There's no blogs. There's no Instagram reels. This is it.
So they're releasing new things that are coming to the parks, new lands, new worlds, new attractions, all of those things.
Well, and what's interesting in this After Dark one is they're not really announcing anything or whatever. You get this great little setup of Walt in the center trying to buy popcorn. And he can't stop signing autographs.
He's just constantly signing autographs this entire time.
His popcorn gets stolen.
Yeah.
He's signing, hats and letters and all sorts of different things. And just kind of calling people out to different areas. And we get some pretty substantial star power throughout this episode.
Get Annette from Babes in Toyland and Shaggy Dog,
who was originally a Mouseketeer.
Yep.
You get an early iteration of the Osmond brothers, a very, very young Osmond brothers. And then probably the one that shocked me the most was Louis Armstrong.
On the boat.
Out on the Mark Twain, going around the rivers of America, playing some New Orleans jazz. That's incredible. He's one of America's greatest musicians ever.
Was the Osmond brothers, were they in the Kid Barbershop Quartet section of this thing?
Yes. Is that where you started to fast forward a little bit?
Maybe. I don't know. Something about there, or maybe it was the Firewalker craziness. That made me pause for a second. I had to check out why this dude was flaming everywhere, just constant fire and craziness.
Yeah, you go to Adventureland to get like these Tahitian firewalkers and belly dancers. Like that was the other thing where I'm going, this is risque, for 1960s television here. In color, a Tahitian belly dancer. And of course, the camera has to point out the men that kind of are a little...
I didn't know if I was going to say it, but you brought it up. The dudes that are just like ogling the women in this with their wives sitting right next to them and their kids. I'm just like, they would shoot this differently. And 2024.
This is 1960s TV. This is
so here's something interesting, and maybe this might have been said in around the seasons. But he's mentioned this is 20 years after the opening of Disneyland. Is that correct? That this show, that didn't make the timeline didn't make sense. It's like we've been open for 20 years or something. I'm like,
no.
So that's not right.
No. So he says, yes, Disney, high personalities like this. I always joke, especially like 8s on the Enneagram, have time dysphoria. They count time differently than everybody else. I don't know if you've met these people. But he just kept saying Disneyland is now in its second decade.
Yes.
So in other words, it opens in 1955. This is now being recorded in 1962, 63, I think it was. So he's going in its second decade.
It's not even years.
And it's not even a decade old.
That's what didn't make any sense. I'm like,
it's a showman term. It's a way of making it sound like it's been around longer than it has.
It's Disney math.
Yes.
It's Disney math.
Yes.
Okay.
But he says it multiple times. And the first few times I paused. I'm like, wait, 2 decades? And I'm having to count. Oh, I see what he's doing. We were open in the 50s. We've now been open in the 60s. 2 decades. But he says in 2 decades. He's very careful on how he says it. But yeah, so the second episode that any one of you can hop on and go see, and I actually would really recommend going and watching this episode. I think the other one just kind of gives you the taste of like the average random episode that most of them probably were. This one is definitely a special episode, and that's probably why it's the one they put out there on Disney Plus. This is Disney kind of reviewing everything that came to the Disneyland park in the course of a year, mainly what things they had developed and put out there at the World's Fair that were now coming to Disneyland, right? So he's talking a lot about It's a Small World, great moments with Mr. Lincoln. We get a whole parade sequence in there.
We also get going through the primeval world. All the dinosaurs and stuff like that. And my favorite, Eddie, I about left out of my seat. They had a living Christmas tree. At the end of that, I was like, oh, hey, this is where we got the idea for our church one growing up.
I thought you were going to do the whole like, I know him. I know him.
I know him. I know this one.
I know that tree. Yeah, and they also announce like they do the grand opening, I guess you would say, of New Orleans Square. No rides yet in it. They just kind of open the area. But I love New Orleans Square. It's probably my favorite part of Disneyland.
Whoa, Eddie, be careful.
I don't know.
Make people mad.
I also really love Main Street.
I was just shocked that everything they were highlighting was new that year. And I'm like, they opened a lot of stuff in 1 year.
Yeah, because it was all paid for by other companies at the World's Fair. Yeah. So you had like,
they made them all in preparation for that, and then they all got migrated. Okay,
they brought them all back.
More sense. Okay,
yeah. So like the state of Illinois and like some company in Illinois paid for everything with Lincoln. PepsiCo paid for It's a Small World. The primeval area, that's all paid by Ford, and what they put together for that. GE did. Carousel of Progress, and that came in.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I did want to highlight that this show, Walt Disney's Wonderful World of Color, I mentioned at the front that it threw me off because I was like, oh, this is the show. And the reason I just call it the show because it had a couple of names.
A lot of names.
And according to Wikipedia, it had 13 different names. So we've got Walt Disney's Disneyland, Walt Disney Presents, Walt Disney's Wonderful World of Color, The Wonderful World of Disney, Disney's Wonderful World, Walt Disney, the Disney Sunday Movie, The Magical World of Disney, The Magical World of Disney on Disney Channel, on Junior, Back to the Wonderful World of Disney. Another one, when it switched networks. And then the last one was The Wonderful World of Disney presented by Disney Plus, which you can't watch on Disney Plus. Like, how do I can't even see all of these. And there's been like 13 different ones. If you just type in Wonderful World of Disney, it doesn't bring you that up at all. I couldn't find it. It brings you up the seasons one again. I'm like, where is it? If it was on Disney Plus, how do I even watch any of that? What did they do for it?
Well, and I remember like in the 90s, it was like they would play movies on Sunday night. And so if like there was some semi-newish Disney movie, like I have like a faint memory of like The Parent Trap or something. And like it would play there with commercials and stuff, of course. Mm-hmm. But like this was like a chance to get to see a movie that maybe otherwise you wouldn't get to see. A Disney movie that you otherwise wouldn't get to see.
So you mentioned at the front that I thought that this was going to be about the wonderful world, the world of color that is now an active part of DCA. Eddie, do you want to explain a little bit about that? Any special things you want to explain about?
Well, I think we can't. So the bridge is the song, Wonderful World of Color, Color, Color. You guys can look it up on YouTube and grab it.
You just gave it to him. You just gave it to him right there.
Another Sherman Brothers tune. This is going to be
World of Color.
We're just going to keep coming back to the Sherman Brothers. So this is a catchy tune. This is really, really catchy. In 2005, when Bob Iger comes in, takes over as the CEO of the Walt Disney Company, it's blatantly obvious to everybody that Disney's California Adventure, the second gate at the Disneyland Resort, is not up to par. Like, it is not a good park by everybody's standards. And so one of the things that he gives to them is start figuring out how to fix this place. And so eventually, I think it's several years later, probably about the early 2010s, we really start to see this huge makeover of Disney's California Adventure 2.0, whatever you want to call it, like what it is today. You start to get that beautiful Buena Vista Street, Carthay Circle theater restaurant at the end. Cars Land is a big part of that.
Yeah.
A part of the original was the Paradise Pier and the Paradise Pier Lagoon and all of that. And one of the things that the engineers had decided, and there's the great sequence on this in the Imagineering story on Disney Plus, is they realize every good Disney park has a great nighttime show. That Kiss Goodnight, that final fireworks over the castle, out in the lagoon, whatever it is. And this park has never had that. And so they commissioned them to say, go make us the best, like the top one, cutting technology or whatever. And so they come up with this fountain show. And when I say fountains, I mean 1,200 programmable fountains with 36 fire-emitting cannons and 28 different high-definition projectors.
It's insane.
And they invented new style of fountains, like the whole idea of colored fountains. That's been around forever. Vegas. I remember seeing shows as a kid in Branson, Missouri. But the big thing was like you put a light at the base of it, and it's like, okay, you get a little bit of color, and then by the top, like the light has faded out. No, they say we want this to be the wonderful world of color. And so they create and invent all these new ways of lighting fountains that you get these bright, colorful fountains all the way up. And they produce arguably one of the best shows, if not, might say the best one.
I think it is. From the ones that I've been to, because I haven't been to any outside of the United States, and comparatively, it's the best show, hands down.
It hits a little bit of everything, right? Like you get a little bit of pyro. It's unique in that it's fountains, and then you get the projector screens with, different images of Disney movies. Like you get, it just hits all these different notes and everything. Great soundtrack. You're out there on that lagoon, like it's, presented wide, like it's just the broadest show. That's the other thing. Like when it's presented up on the castle, either Sleeping Beauty or Cinderella, like it's cool, but it's also very limited. It's a narrow presentation. Fantasmic is cool. It's a little bit broader, but you come to this and it's just like huge. It's massive. And I mean, when those fire cannons go off, the 36, like your eyebrows melt off a little bit. Like it is just so strong and powerful.
It's definitely worth it if you ever find yourself there or with a park hopper going over there for that final show. Is awesome. And it made me a little sad when we were there recently and they were closing down the park at 6 p.m. for Oogie Boogie Nights. So we didn't get to experience
to go over to it.
It was so it was sad.
That stinks.
I don't know that my kids would have made it all the way. Actually, they actually did. Like it just would have depended on when it actually was. But we did not get to see it last time we went.
That's why at the opening I said I think we just need to plan a return trip. I have only been once, and it was with the two of you.
And you guys went by yourself, right?
No.
Did we all, was that when we all stayed for it?
So I went with you and Colby after you guys got engaged.
Pre-marriage.
You had just got engaged.
Marriage.
And we spent... Yeah, we spent a day park hopping between the two, but most of it, I want to say, over at DCA. So we did like Cars Land and all that. When we were young, we could do these things. Now
we have photos of us like sitting on the sidewalk, falling asleep. Yeah.
So we need to go back. We need to do it. We were looking at a whole bunch of stuff. My boys just discovered that there's a Cars Land there.
They didn't know that?
They didn't know this.
Eddie,
and so now it's
you're
like,
done.
Oh, I gotta get them to Cars. I want to do it. I want to do it as well. But that's the wonderful world of color.
Rating time, Eddie. I know you're dying to rate this thing.
This is a weird one. Like I feel like this is like Disney nerdom at its core, right? Like we go back and watch like old TV episodes from the 60s just to say that we have
old basketball games or whatever. Yeah.
Yes.
Playoff games. Michael Jordan. Yeah.
Who would do these things? I would say the Around the Seasons one that they have on Disney Plus. I would give it a 3. I would say entertaining, especially if you're a Disney Parks fan, just kind of see some of the history and everything tie together. I'm being generous, I know, but I'm going to give it a 3. You're
being really generous because I am definitely like, thanks for all the memories back in the vault. Night, World of Color. You can go back. I think he got enough autographs. I think people got enough autographs during that one episode. He loves
signing his autographs. He loves it. Loves it very much. So, there you go. JB's a 1. I'm a 3. No one's surprised by the disparity in our votes there. Once again, we tricked you there for a little bit with Babes in Toyland. Oh, is JB and Eddie switching places?
I had to come back hard. I had to come back with a hard one and be. Normally we're like 1 apart. Like you're a 3, I'm a 2. This is we're a long ways away on this one.
This was my second time to view this episode. Like when it came out on Disney Plus originally, I sat down and watched it.
Of course you did. Of course you did, Eddie.
Yeah.
I did not. Well, now that you're filled up on your Disney nostalgia, let's talk about a bit of Disney news. Beginning with, let's just do a little in memoriam here for James Earl Jones. Passed away today as we were recording this. Got this in right under the wire.
At the full age of 93.
That's crazy. That's crazy that he lived that long. It was great timing that he recently gave permission for them to use AI to reproduce his voice this past year. This last year, I think it was 2023, that he gave them that permission for Obi-Wan, right? For the Obi-Wan show.
Yeah.
Yep. But man, what a career. Just defined so many people's childhoods with just his voice alone.
Yeah. And did you know that as a kid growing up, he actually had a stutter, a severe stutter? And that going through voice therapy and stuff to correct the stutters when he actually discovered his acting talents.
That's incredible.
Really,
That's
really
insane.
incredible. Yeah, I think he's most known for the voice of Darth Vader, of course. But then I think also like every millennial is going to also know his voice as Mufasa.
Mm-hmm.
And then many other roles, like he's an Academy Award winning actor. Like he's done it all. So yeah, that was sad to hear, but also like at 93, you see like a full life lived.
Full life. Yep.
Yeah. Speaking of full lives, there's a lot to fill your life up with on Disney Plus now. They have been making quite a bit of changes and additions over there. Have you caught any of these new things?
No, but tell me about it.
Well, first of all, my kids are now obsessed with the new Lego Pixar shorts. Bricktoons. I at first thought like, are we doing like a quick retelling of these stories, but like in Lego form? No, these are whole new stories that are just in short form from these different, but they are Lego characters. So you get Cars, Brave, The Incredibles, Coco, Finding Nemo. There's 5 new ones out there, and I think my kids have already watched them all like 2 or 3 times.
We have not watched these yet. I wonder why. Maybe it's because they just came out while we were
traveling
on our vacation, traveling. I think is probably why we're just now getting caught back up on all of our kids shows that have been coming out.
And they're really good. Like, come on, we love a good Pixar story and these characters. So like, hey, a little bit more of these doesn't hurt anybody. And I typically like the Lego styling and even sense of humor in all of it.
Yeah, I was about to say that's the biggest part of this. There's something about once it moves to Legos that they just add even another level of silliness and playfulness to it. There's many
especially the Star Wars ones.
Oh yeah. The Star Wars ones go to a whole nother level and self-referential, like they're in on the joke as well and they play off of it. So I think it's a good idea for them. It's a low bar. There's a low level of entry here. These are 9-minute, 10-minute stories. And I love that it's new too. It's not just, hey, let's tell the same story and we'll do a couple of wisecracks in there too. Like they're telling unique stories in here. So that's fun. I applaud you. Good job, Disney.
They also have, and I think it comes out here in just a couple of weeks. So we'll have to catch it when it comes. But there's a new Star Wars one coming out. And I made the mistake of, I can't remember what they're calling it. And I just Googled Star Wars Lego. That was a bad idea. That's not going to be specific at all. There's like 1 million Star Wars Legos. But they're retelling the story. Like, what if something went wrong? And like Jar Jar Binks is actually the Darth Sith. You know, the Sith Lord behind it all. Like
that's
Darth
right.
Jar Jar.
People started losing their minds because of Sith Jar Jar.
Yes.
All on Reddit. Yep.
Yes. So this looks kind of interesting. We'll see what happens.
It's almost like What If.
Yeah.
But for Star Wars.
And with Legos. The other thing that Disney Plus has done is live in two different ways. One, you can watch ABC News live, which a lot of people are guessing they're gearing up because they're going to host one of the presidential debates here coming up. Is it tonight?
It's tonight.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. So they're kind of wanting to hype up their news division, which, a little bit more news and stuff this time of this cycle of presidential elections. So I think that kind of drives subscriptions a bit. This is a place to look at that. But the other thing that they're doing, which is now this trend, and I don't understand it. So JB, you just got to educate me here. These like channels, but they don't Disney Plus is calling it like playlist or whatever. But like literally it's just the shows that you could go and watch on demand episode, pick your episode. They're just playing, like you don't get to pick the episode or whatever. It's just like a Bluey channel, and they're running all the episodes nonstop. And you just hop in when you hop in and you jump out when you jump out.
Well, I think this is taking the place of cable television. Like there's a certain group of people, whether they're parents with young kids or older adults that just want to have something on in the background, that the literal act of just choosing something else to click on the next thing, the whole, are you done watching? Are you not done watching? I think they're annoyed by that and they just want it to run. Think of anybody who watches any of the cop shows.
Sure.
Think of Law and Order.
Well, I know one of the popular ones on Peacock is there's just an Office channel.
Mm-hmm.
Or a Hallmark channel where they just play the Hallmark movies over and over and over and over and over and over. Yep,
and that's all people are wanting and so that's what these channels serve, is parents or older adults that just want to have. And I'm saying it pejoratively, but like those are the people that I know in my life that do that. Are usually older adults that kind of like came up with cable and wanted that kind of like, I'm just going to turn this on, watch the episode that's on, and doesn't matter watching them in order or binge watching. It's like it's a different type of binge watching because it's not like in order from beginning to end. It's just on. And so that's what these channels are about.
So just for clarity's sake and for friendship's sake, are you one of those people?
No.
Okay.
I'm not that old yet.
We're not that old. I'm only like, 3 weeks behind you?
Although, let's be honest, Eddie, if there was a West Wing channel, I think that would be for us. I take that back. If that, because that doesn't exist, I can say confidently I'm not that person. But if there was a West Wing channel, I would watch that immediately.
Definitely.
Think about it, HBO Max.
Definitely. I could just hop in, hop out whenever. Yeah.
And you would know exactly. You would know exactly the episode and what season and everything.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. That would be the one to hook me. All right. I'm getting it. I'm understanding a little bit better.
Okay, another piece of news. We got a lot of little things today. We have a director for Spider-Man 4. There's been some buzz around it. Like, is it happening? What's happening with Tom Holland? But they finally have a director for it, and it's Destin Daniel Cretton, who was the director of Shang-Chi, probably the one redeeming Marvel movie in the latest phase that we are trying to get out of as fast as possible. Because it
definitely
was
my
awful.
favorite. It's the one I've gone back and rewatched the most.
It's super rewatchable.
Yep.
Thank you. Thankfully, because the leads in that had such amazing chemistry, especially with Awkwafina. One of the few rewatchable of all of them. I might actually go watch one of those tonight. Maybe. Who knows? Although it is getting kind of late. But yeah, so he was Cretton was initially supposed to be doing the new Kang Marvel series, the Avengers Kang Dynasty or whichever one it was. And when all the drama started happening and with Jonathan Majors and they kept on going back and forth, what's the story? He dropped out. of that, but they wanted to keep him around and they wanted to do more stuff with him. And so this is one of his next things, is going to be doing Spider-Man 4. So I'm excited because it means Tom Holland is back. We get to finish up or the next portion of his story, which left on a massive cliffhanger.
Yeah.
So that's exciting to me.
And I'm excited. I have enjoyed all three of the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. I'm not like huge fan of them or whatever, but I've very much enjoyed each and every one of them. I think they're solid, and I think bringing in somebody like him from another movie we loved, I think it's just going to be a fun movie, right? And that's just what we want. We just want good, fun movies to go entertain us.
Exactly.
Speaking of entertaining, I'm going to jump to the very last one. It's the 90th birthday of Donald Duck. Happy birthday, Donald Duck. And in true Disney fashion, like they're going to take like 18 months to celebrate his 90th birthday or whatever.
10 years left before you're public domain. So,
but the thing that I love about this, how do they choose to celebrate him? They have an interview. They have him interviewed on Hot Takes and tasting hot wings. And hot ones. And not only is it just like clips from old Donald Duck shorts. No, like they bring in like a team of hand-drawn animators, like classic animators, and hand draw this entire sequence, record all new voice tracks and everything for this thing.
Wow.
This is created from the ground. Like, I'm both impressed and also like bewildered. Like, why are we using hot ones as the way to celebrate Donald Duck's night? And they make a really weird point at the outset of it that he is eating cauliflower wings, not chicken wings, just if there was any confusion that Donald might perform some type of cannibalism or something there. Duck
That's
chicken,
funny.
Yes, very much so. So it's on YouTube. You should definitely check it out. I thought it was very interesting. And of course, Disney never loses an opportunity for cross-marketing. They create a whole new line of hot sauces based off of, I think, mostly Disney villains. And yes, you can go buy that now.
Well, I think they're doing that because obviously Hot Ones is one of the top YouTube shows, massive following. They get every major star nowadays goes on that show to promote whatever show or book or whatever they're promoting. So it's definitely what people do in 2024. And honestly, this being aside, but like that interviewer is a really good.
Yeah.
He's like hailed as one of the best interviewers in media today.
Yeah.
So it's funny premise. They're eating hot wings or whatever, but it's got a lot of cachet, a lot of it's in the culture right now.
Yeah. So there you go.
Real quick, were you wanting to skip over the?
No. I just order.
Okay. Last thing, we had mentioned a ongoing issue that was going on with Disney and this wrongful death lawsuit that had come up because of someone who had gotten the wrong thing at a diner nearby. On the property, not on the property. Is it Disney's fault? Is it not Disney? Disney's,
it'd be like it's downtown Disney. It's called Disney Springs, but it's downtown Disney. So it's like on Disney property, but it's run by a third party, guaranteed that this is free from the allergens, and then they end up having a severe allergic reaction that kills them.
And kills them, yeah.
Which is terrible.
When we left it, Disney was at the time trying to shoehorn, well, because you signed up for a free trial of Disney Plus, you can't sue us for a wrongful death in the park. And we were like, this is ridiculous.
And the whole world jumped on it. It was on every major news network. Everybody's like, really? This is what Disney's trying to do? And I mean, it just looked terrible. So Disney backtracks it.
the most obvious backtrack that they like. Someone was like, "Why are we doing this again? Why are we making this a bigger deal when we can just do our part?"
Well, and it's interesting because I think like the case, like the person's only like looking for like $50,000 or whatever. Like it's just they're trying to cover medical expenses is pretty much what it comes down to. Which is, you're going
for them. It's like a biscuit.
Yeah, and you're going. You just lost more than $50,000 in bad publicity there.
Bad PR, yeah.
Yeah,
especially not right now for a company that is. Well, I guess their movies are doing better, but just in general, there's a lot of all the other buzz about the parks, about Iger, about Succession. The stock price is down. Like they need to stack wins, not get in fights over petty responses to human tragedy.
Yes, and I think that's exactly it. Like everybody looks at this and goes, "Somebody died. Like this is terrible." Like you shouldn't be petty over something like this. Like, yeah. So good for them for backtracking it, but I think the egg is already on the face and not sure if they can wash it off.
Yep. Okay. Well, before we go, Eddie, I know you're not going to Disney like we were last week, but I hope you and your family will have a good week.
Well, I have to have
rub that in.
Somewhat of a better week because the previous I had kidney stone. I had a kidney stone, which just YouTube that. Just go down that trail for a little bit and learn just excruciating that is. You were
breaking the news to me that they actually rank it as worse than childbirth.
My own wife found that article, and that's not something you can bring up as the man, but she brought it up to me.
I haven't had a kidney stone, so I can't use that against
right
against them.
So this is according to my wife. I've only had a kidney stone. I've never given birth, so I cannot compare the two.
You probably shouldn't try.
So, I hope we everything is on the up and up and doing much better. So with that, you have gotten your weekly dose of Disney nostalgia, everyone.
Be sure to subscribe to Honey, We Made a Disney Podcast, wherever you listen to your other favorite podcasts, and give us a look on YouTube as well.
While you are there, please like or leave a 5-star review and share it with your best friend.
You can also check us out at honeywemade.com, where you can see all our nostalgic reviews of Disney movies.
Tune in next week as we review The Sword in the Stone.
Thank you for listening, and remember, if your imagination is ready, here we go.